Hello and welcome. Since the release of the teaser trailer, there have been quite a number of people, either new or returning to the franchise, that want to know more about the story surrounding Doom: The Dark Ages, which is set to release sometime in 2025. So, as the self-proclaimed leading expert in the lore of Doom, I thought it might be worthwhile to make a video just summarizing the story of Doom leading up to the Dark Ages. So, let's get knee-deep into this. So we all know that the story of Doom actually started all the way back in classic Doom 1993, but it wasn't until Doom 64 that the universe of Doom was established. A single event in Doom 64 would change the history of Doom and basically give rise to a massive universe that we know of today. So let's talk about it. So in Doom 64, Doomguy finds himself back on the moon of Phobos, where it all began in Doom 1993. Now, in the absolute carnage of Hell, the UAC, and Doomguy going at each other, the sheer amount of radiation masked the presence of a very special type of demon, the Mother Demon. This Mother Demon, while very strong, has a very special power, the power of resurrection. And she would go on to resurrect all the rotting carcasses of the demons on Phobos and make them far stronger than they were in their previous life. At this stage, Doomguy has only one objective: merciless extermination. So once Doomguy kills the Mother Demon, he decides to go into Hell and remain there to make sure that these demons don't return to Earth. But his time in Hell would be short-lived, because in his carnage, he would come across the Resurrector Demon, who is a sister to the Mother Demon. This Resurrector Demon then teleports Doomguy out of Hell, because he is a massive nuisance to the demons. Knowing how dangerous these types of demons are, Doomguy then goes on to a mission to get back into Hell to destroy this Resurrector Demon before it's too late. Once it's done, Doomguy will make a decision, or I should say, the decision. He will make the ultimate sacrifice to take the path of perpetual torment and remain in Hell to fight demons till he falls. And at this stage, Doomguy stayed in Hell for an unknown amount of time. Maybe we'll get the answers to this in the Doom: The Dark Ages, but I highly doubt it. But that's not important. What is important is what happens next. Doomguy is then found on the planet of Argent D'Nur, on the outskirts of Sentinel Prime. And he is found to be battered, bruised, and I quote, on the verge of death. And it doesn't matter if he fought for hours, days, or even weeks. What we do know is that he almost died until something or someone intervened. Or maybe he managed to find his way out of Hell himself. We don't know. Doomguy would then be found by the Night Sentinels. And at this stage, Doomguy has lost most of his sanity because he has been fighting for so long. He would ramble on about demons and these beings made of hellfire and this dark plane of existence that we know of to be hell, but they don't know that. They have never even imagined these beings before, but they will soon. Now, the interesting thing is that because Doomguy is an outsider and did not belong to any clan, the law of Argent D'Nur is actually pretty clear on that. Doomguy would have to prove himself in the Colosseum, and if successful, would then be given the right to fight on the front lines as a fodder soldier with the purpose of spreading the influence of the Makers to other planets. But I want to make it very clear, he would not be fighting as a Night Sentinel, just as a tool of war that the Night Sentinels would make use of. And if he dies, he dies. Now, one of the best moments of Doom Eternal is that we actually get to see this part of the lore actually in a cinematic. And what I love about it is the moment we see that beautiful classic Doomguy helmet. It is in that very moment that both the classic games, well, all of the classic games, and the new Doom universe is connected by that one moment in time. And then we go on to see how he is judged by the priests of the Deeg. The three priests that we know of would later on go on to become the Hell Priests that we eventually fight in Doom Eternal. We then get to see Doomguy going into the Colosseum and basically fighting for his freedom. And we already know that Doomguy has an incredibly strong body and a very strong force of will for a mere human anyway. not only would he win once, but he would win multiple times in the Colosseum. His success in the Colosseum would eventually reach the Khan Maker's ears, who is at that stage the god or the goddess of the Argenta society. The Khan Maker was absolutely fascinated by this human and his unknown origins, so she demanded that the priests of the Dig learn his ugly tongue, as is described in the lore, to make sure that she can spread her influence to this new realm that Doomguy was speaking of, which obviously we know is hell, but they don't know that. Then, not long after that event, the demons would launch an initial invasion on the planet of Argent D'Nur. The demons had followed Doomguy to this ripe new world to consume, and it is described in the Codex entry that this first invasion happened on the eve of the Black Star. Obviously, we don't know what that means, but it is fair to assume that it was an eclipse, and I'm sure most people know of certain myths surrounding the eclipse in our own human history, such as the eclipse being the harbingers of something very bad, or at least in fictional and fantasy stories, the eclipse usually causes the fabric of reality to weaken, allowing higher dimensional beings to cross into our world. So although it is not described in this much detail, it would actually make a lot of sense why the demons would invade so close to an eclipse, and that's because the fabric between these two realms are weak. And this invasion would happen at the perfect time, because the element of surprise was with the demons. Their initial invasion was so strong that they managed to completely and utterly destroy the city of Telorum even before the Night Sentinels were able to meet them in combat. And it was at this very moment that the unholy wars would begin, and this would last for an extremely long amount of time. And despite the incredible technological power that the people of Argent D'Nur had, especially the Night Sentinels, which were gifted to them by the Maker race in exchange for servitude and obedience, it was nowhere near enough for the endless hordes of demons that literally poured through the Hell Gates. The demons themselves, such as the cunning Archviles, were using such dark magic, could not even imagine how they were able to manipulate hellfire and all of this magic right in their fingertips. And as you would come to expect from demons, they were so relentless and so savage that they literally brought Argent D'Nur to its knees. And it actually explicitly says in the lore that the demons almost pushed the Night Sentinels, and by extension, the whole planet, to the brink of defeat through this single initial invasion. And at this stage, the planet was completely overrun by war, famine, and chaos unlike never before. And it was at this very point that I believe that the Dark Ages officially began, which would continue all the way through the Argenta Civil War and eventually the Great Betrayal. So at this point, the Argenta priests and engineers scrambled to find some sort of solution to win against the demons, because clearly sheer brute force power was not working for them, so they had to think smart. So, thankfully, the Order of the Dig were able to capture some of these demons and were able to understand how their powers worked, the source of their magic. It was the essence, or as it's called in the game, Hell's essence. They then brought this knowledge to the Khan Maker, who would tell them to continue their research, but in order to do so, they needed to go into Hell, not once, but multiple times. But this is the dark place that only Doomguy, out of the entire planet, was the most familiar with. Throughout their multiple expeditions into Hell, the people of Argent D'Nur, or more specifically the Night Sentinel army, would actually witness how skilled Doomguy was in killing demons. Doomguy knew of their tactics, their weaknesses, everything. Doomguy's skill in killing demons would eventually reach the one and only King Novik, who would break tradition for the very and only time in the history of Argent D'Nur. He would raise Doomguy's station from a mere frontline fodder soldier and officially bring him into the fold of the Night Sentinels. Doomguy would then have the honor of receiving some of the most highly advanced training and technology and armor that you could ever get. And one thing that's the most interesting, or at least for me it is, that Doomguy would be trained by none other than Commander Valen. If you actually want to know more about him, I actually have a lore video about Commander Valen. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. Then eventually over time, Doomguy basically becomes part of the Night Sentinel and would fight alongside them for multiple years actually against the demons. And during all of this time, the priests and the makers gained a far better understanding of Hell's essence. This essence would give the power to heal, to gain immortality, to gain a higher knowledge and understanding of science. They would go on to use this Hell's essence in their weapons and technologies, which would obviously raise their civilization into a new age. This essence would also help the makers avoid transfiguration, which is the process in which if they don't get some sort of external energy, like in the game it is Argent energy, then they eventually degrade and become almost demonic creatures. This Hell's essence would actually be given freely to the people of Argent Denur, even the civilians, and they would go on to live their lives of near immortality and perfect health and so on. However, a fair contingent of the Night Sentinels, the people that followed the old ways, including Doomguy of course, would refuse to drink this dark elixir because they felt that this is just not right. It doesn't make sense to drink elixir made from their enemies, the demons. Now, enough time passes where the demons and the Night Sentinels are fighting each other that another black star occurs, or another eclipse occurs. Now, obviously, we don't know the orbit of the planet of Argent Denur and how long it takes for each eclipse to occur, but we can imagine, and based off the Codex entry, that it's multiple years that these guys have been fighting pretty much on a daily basis. But this particular black star event, or the eclipse event, would be one of, if not the most dangerous event in history of Argent Denur. Once the black star reaches its apex, the demons would then unleash their massive final invasion. And at the front line of this invasion would be a massive demonic titan that would tear through the city of Teresnabad, the capital city of Argent Denur. And with such overwhelming power, the demons would absolutely annihilate the city. The Night Sentinels, again, despite their technology and training, just did not have the strength to match an army of this strength. They would hold their final stand in Teresnabad, with Doomguy fighting alongside them. A few survivors would flee north to Exultia, one of whom was King Novik, a few Night Sentinel guards, and the priests of the Deeg, who would go on to eventually betray the followers of the old ways. And during this final stand, Samur Maker, or the Seraphim as we know him, a chancellor to the Khan Maker, would witness Doomguy's efforts in the battlefield, and he would then begin to hear whispers telling him to bring this particular outsider to the divinity machine and subject him to it. So, Samur listens to the whispers and takes Doomguy to the divinity machine under complete secrecy. It was such a secret, in fact, that not even the Khan Maker knew about it. Samur then subjects Doomguy to the divinity machine, and before he activates it, he makes some minor modifications which we know were whispered to Samur by Devoth, the Dark Lord himself. Now with the divinity machine fixed, Doomguy would be given the power of the gods, or basically the small amount of power that remained of Devoth, the Dark Lord himself. And after that moment, what rose from that machine was no longer Doomguy, it would be the Doom Slayer. Doomguy would then find the crucible and eventually carve through the armies of hell, and eventually he would end the fight by impaling that massive titan in the chest, causing it to become incapacitated as long as the blade remains embedded. Now with the demonic invasion halted, the Night Sentinels rallied to the banner of the Slayer. Eventually the Khan Maker would find out that Doomguy was subjected to the divinity machine without her knowledge and without her permission. And while she was not comfortable with Doomguy having such elevated powers, that actually opened up more possibilities for her. She knew that Doomguy did not care about the politics or really anyone on Argent Denur. His main focus has always been the extermination of demons, and this gave the Khan Maker an opportunity to use Doomguy as a super weapon in case the demons ever overran a city of Argent Denur, which may potentially disrupt her efforts in unlocking the power of Argent energy. And therefore Doomguy would serve, well, willingly or unwillingly, at least he didn't really care, he would go on to serve and basically do the bidding of the Khan Maker. And she would summon him whenever she would require the extermination of demons. And this is exactly where the Doom, the Dark Ages, the game that is set to release in about a year, will actually take place. The Doomguy has already been through the Divinity Machine, he's already been inducted into the Knight Sentinels. In fact, he's probably very high up in the ranks of the Knight Sentinel army. And at this stage, he is most likely not a king of Argent Dinur, not yet. That actually happens around the time of the Argenta Civil War, which would happen maybe a few years after the events of Doomguy serving the Khan Maker. And based off the lore that has been established in Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, we'll actually get to see Doomguy being used as a super weapon in multiple campaigns for the Khan Maker in Doom the Dark Ages, which I'm pretty sure will lead into the Argenta Civil War and eventually end with the Great Betrayal. But I'll cover my thoughts on what we can expect from the story of the game itself in a separate video. Anyways, thank you for listening, and as always, I'll see you in hell.